welcome to another segment of No Pasa Nada, people. Today we have a special guest, a father, entrepreneur, who's constantly changing his dreams and evolving as life goes on. Omar Marcos, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo
¿Lo hacemos
estás?
en español o en inglés?
Inglés, por favor.
Ok, English, tu español no es mucho very good looking.
It needs help.
Okay, and it's help. All right, and such a great hair day, by the way.
Thanks. That's kind of like why I'm doing the whole, headphones on the bottom, because look at this, right?
It's amazing. Yes,
Yeah,
great.
thanks.
Well, welcome and thank you for being with
Of
us
course.
today. Taking time out of your day. I know you're super busy. I'd like to let people know how we met. We met with a great show that you do every year, correct?
Yes.
What's it called? Runway
Houston.
Houston.
Well, I don't do it anymore.
You don't do it anymore? Why?
No.
What happened?
Okay, so I did it for 10 years. And so the last show that we did in last fall, November, was the final show. After 17 seasons, 10 years, I decided
Wow.
to, it was very narrow in the scope of how it could grow. I'm very proud of what I created. I mean, at its largest, it was the second largest fashion show in the Southern United States. It was second.
Which is amazing.
second-
I'm glad I was able to
Yeah.
experience that, by the way.
Well, thank you. It was second only to Miami Fashion Week, but just by the name itself, Runway Houston, like it invokes a fashion vibe, fashion show. So a lot of multitude of reasons why I decided to end it, but the main reason is that I want to create something that's even larger in scope that can grasp all sorts of demographics that aren't just into fashion. And so that's what my next project is, but I guess we can talk about that later.
We will talk about all your projects. I see that you constantly change your projects. What goes on in life that you say, is it that you're done or you feel satisfied with what you've created that you go on to the next, or they don't work, or what is it that makes you want to change your goals?
It's real simple. I have ADHD,
Oh.
like full blown. And so my mind is constantly moving and shifting and thinking about different things. And as we were talking before the podcast started, we're our hardest critic. I mean, I get in my own head probably more than anybody possibly could. And I'll look at projects that I'm working on, and it may be from the outside perception looking in, people are like, this is great, this is awesome, like Runway Houston. Why would you end it? It was amazing. I wasn't satisfied with it anymore. I was getting, I wouldn't say bored, but it wasn't challenging me anymore. And of course, I'm always trying to create different new things. And so when the gerbil inside your head is running on the wheel really, really fast, I mean, sometimes you just want to give the gerbil a break and then so it can run faster next time, right?
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to change. It's okay to change your projects. Now, have you felt like you failed by taking that away?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I have failed in the sense of Runway Houston. Let's take that as an example. Very successful, very well attended. The last one that we did, I hardly did anything to promote it, like nothing at all. And it was still packed, sold out, like lots of people were attended. And so in terms of failure, I would say to my standards, absolutely, a lot. More often than I probably...
Do you have high standards? Do you feel
Of
like
course. Somebody says jump, I'll say how high, right? And then when they tell me how high, I'll try to jump higher than that. So I think that my biggest perseverance isn't how I handle success. It's how I handle my failures, right? And so when I meet people, even if I'm talking to you or anybody else, I'm always interested in their failures, because if we're going to evolve and become better, how you handle failure is how I feel like you can gauge anything in your life, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I have failed plenty, and I'm better for it. Absolutely.
I did ask you on one of my questions, speaks just about that, about failures. What do you think you failed the most in life? And you said mostly your biggest challenge was the people you've hurt.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Who did you hurt? Sorry.
A lot of people, right? We can go all the way back, and I've just never been. What's the word I'm looking for here? I guess when I get close to people, regardless of the relationship, I tend to self-destruct, right? I feel like it's a comfort level that I'm unfamiliar with, and it scares me.
Self-sabotage.
It scares me, absolutely. I don't want to make excuses for my actions, but I've definitely hurt a lot of people. I mean, I've used to be a womanizer, Dated around a lot. Didn't really have any regard or care for people's emotions. Like I would date them and then break it off, or if they broke it off, I would just be immune to the pain, right? And when you've done that for a long time, it has a chain reaction, right? And so, I mean, I've hurt my mother, I've hurt my family. I used to be married. I'm not anymore.
How long were you married?
I like answering it this way because I was only married for 5 years, but we were together for 10. So for me, it was like a 10-year relationship instead of just
Right.
being a 5-year relationship.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And trust me, we're better divorced, but I wouldn't trade anything away for anything, any of it for anything because I got my daughter out of it. And
Which you're an amazing father, by the way.
thank you. My ex-wife is a great mother, right? And so when we got divorced, I should say, because it's not just one person that's getting
No, it
divorced.
takes
Right?
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we got divorced, I was really upset, but not because I was divorcing her per se, but because I feel like I was failing at family, right? And so I grew up in a single mother household. My dad was out of the picture by the time I was 4. And so
Your mom never remarried?
never. And as a matter of
So you
fact,
didn't have a father figure in your life
I
at any
did.
point? Okay.
But it wasn't anybody that my mother dated. And as a matter of fact, after my dad was out of the picture, I don't think that I ever saw or knew of my mother dating anybody ever, like ever. And so as a child, even growing up, I always wanted to have a family, like mother,
You
father.
wanted to probably break
kids.
that cycle that
Yeah,
your
I didn't have
parents
that. So
had.
like I wanted that for my life. And so when we got divorced, I was like, I failed at my goal. That all I wanted to do was have a family for my kid or kids. In this case, it's just one daughter. So yeah, I know that she reciprocates the emotion of us being better off divorced and married now. And I know I've hurt her. I've hurt lots of people. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything that I've done in my life because we are where we are because of all of our previous history. And I'm feel like today's a great day. So I wouldn't trade my past for anything, but I would, if I could, change the fact that I've hurt a lot of people for sure.
Do you feel that by hurting people, it benefited you now? Have you learned something from it? Or do you feel like you still keep doing some traits or that you've done before? You haven't fully changed.
It's like going on a diet, right? People say, "Oh, I need to go on a diet," and you've been eating unhealthy for such a long period of time, junk food, whatever, right? Sweets, alcohol, liquor, whatever it may be. And then one day you decide to go on a diet. And so you decide to go on a diet.
Hard.
How long does that usually last?
It's pretty hard.
It usually lasts like 1 or 2 days, and then you're like right back on, right? It's hard to break old habits, right? And so, yes, I've made a multitude of mistakes in my life. Many, many, many. Do I still make mistakes? 100%. But I will say this, and I can tell you the exact date that it happened because it was such a significant day.
Was it September 11, 2022?
It was September 11th.
That was my question, and I want to know why. Tell me.
Okay, so I'm not going to bring in any names, but I was in a relationship for a while, and I was in love,
How long is a while to you?
like a year almost.
Okay,
right?
that's a while, yeah.
So I fell in love, and she told me that she was in love as well, and so I kind of figured towards the end of it that it wasn't going to work out. Right? Lots of different reasons. Reasons aren't
But
relevant.
if you were in love, why would you say that it wouldn't work out?
I felt that she was in love with somebody else. Okay, so
Did you ask her?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Um,
So in other words, cállate, Arango.
Cállate, Arango. Déjame hablar un
Me
poquito.
callo, me callo.
Déjame hablar un poquito.
A ver,
Okay,
dale.
so I was going on a trip to Disney with my daughter at the beginning of September, and she was actually on a trip at that time. And I could tell that there was like a complete fall off while she was gone in our communication. And it was kind of really rocky heading into that time frame anyway, at the end of August. And then it was ironic because she had invited me to go on that trip, right? Well beforehand. And during that trip is kind of when I saw that the shift in her demeanor, right? I was kind of already checked out. but I saw that she was like checked out during that trip. So then she got back, and then like the next day later, I literally left for Disney, right? And so this is all clouded over my head, and I want to say there's probably when I got back from the trip, she's like, we need to talk, right? And so she gave me the whole, I don't think it's working out, this and that. I love you, care about you, this and. So then I was like, okay, it's over, right? So I'm good with that. Not good with it, but I understand. And then literally a week later, September 11th, I'm not even in Houston. I'm in New York for New York Fashion Week. So I'm in the busiest city in the world, attending some fashion shows, and all these amazing things are going on. You would think, and I'm leading up to Runway Houston, and I haven't decided at this point that it's gonna be my last one. But then September 11th happens. I wake up that morning with a rush of energy. 4 a.m. I woke up that day, September 11th. I went for a run around Central Park, which is a 10K, by the way. I never realized that, 6 miles. Crushed it. It was my personal record for a 10K. I don't know what was in me. And then the day starts, right? And so I'm going to, ground zero to try to see if I can take in some of the ceremonies, because it's, it's an emotional day for New York, for the whole world, really. I'm checking social media, and I see her socials. And of all days, it was that day that I saw her with her ex.
No.
And they were at a sporting event. Maybe it was an Astros game, or I don't know what it was. They were holding hands.
No.
And this is like a week, like 1 week later, right? So like I go spiraling emotionally, like all the emotions,
Wow.
right? This is somebody that told me a couple of weeks ago that they were in love, that they loved me, right? And I definitely was in love with her. So I started like going through the whole thing. I checked out completely. Like I'm in New York, surrounded by everybody, going to fashion shows, and I'm like numb, completely numb. And so I started thinking about everything. And then as soon as I came back, like I was just trying to dissect myself. Like, what was it about me? What was it that wasn't working? Because you put your blame on yourself. You always do.
Always.
And so
Because we are our worst critics.
it's like, this is bigger than just me, right? I have a daughter. And so I expounded on my thoughts, and I was like, how am I living my life? And so I took myself out of myself to view how I was living my own life. And in that moment, I realized I was not the person I should be. I fast forwarded through time and thought of my daughter dating somebody like me. Somebody that
Ouch.
was doing the things that I was doing, living the life that I was living, treating people the way that they were treating people. And I was like disgusted with myself, absolutely repulsed at my actions. And it couldn't have happened if all of this hadn't happened, because I thought everything was fine. Because I got a good job. I'm a good dad, apparently. I have a good relationship. We're in love, yada, yada, yada. But if all that hadn't have imploded, and I wouldn't have realized how I was living my life and my actions and the consequences of my actions, then I wouldn't have had that shift. And it was immediate. Like, it was immediate. It was a cold turkey diet. And so, yes, I am still making a lot of mistakes. But now I'm looking at them in a different way and realizing these have profound effects on people around me. And I'm seeing it. And I would hate for my daughter to ever view me the way that I was living my life. So a lot of changes were made, and I'm still going through it. I mean, it's still very fresh. It all happened in September. So
Was this the first time you felt this way for somebody before? I mean, because you've been married.
Yeah.
So, yeah? Yeah?
I would say I definitely was in love with my ex-wife. I mean, at a point in time, right? But then we fell out of love. That's how divorce happens. And then things happen that create the friction that leads to divorce, right?
Like, I'm trying to see if with this relationship you gave what you hadn't given before, which is why that big impact.
No,
You did not? You didn't give it, or you did
I
give
did not.
You did not give it.
No. And so in hindsight, it's 2020. You see everything clearly and you know all the mistakes and you're like, oh, that's where I went wrong. But when you're in it, there's no way you can see it, right? You're in the cornfield. You're trying to find your way out of the cornfield, but all you see is corn everywhere, right? If you take yourself out of the cornfield and you look from an elevated perspective, then you see the whole way out. And you're like, oh, I was just right there. I just needed to go this way or this way or this way, right? So obviously in hindsight, I didn't give it everything, right? And what's crazy is that me and her, not my ex-wife, but the ex I'm referring to that I was with, are amazing friends now.
That's good.
And I feel like that's where we should have been.
But because you appreciate the journey?
Yeah. And so it's almost, and this is the God honest truth, I prefer it this way now.
But did you ever get your closure, or you
Yes.
didn't need the closure?
I think that time allowed me to heal, right? And so there was a significant portion of time where I didn't communicate with her at all, like nothing, right? She would text me, nothing. I wrote her a letter that was like 4 pages long.
Wow.
And that was my closure. It took me like 5 days to write it because like I would start writing it and then I'd be like, get into my feels. And I'd be like, okay, this is what I really feel. Let me think about what I really want to say. So it was about 4 pages long. I wrote it to her. And then she texted me back saying, I got your letter. And I still had stuff at her house. Like, and she had stuff and I had stuff that was hers. And so like we had a mutual friend. And so that's how communication started again, was that, hey, how do I get my stuff from you and this and that? And so like there was a little bit of communication that kind of like inched its way towards communicating again. And then her daughter's a model. So she walked in Runway Houston. And so she came to Runway Houston. So I think that was like the first time. No. Oh, go ahead. A week before that, I saw her again at the casting and we hugged and it was all good. And she brought her boyfriend, of course. So that was amazing. But you know what? I'm happy for her because like she is like head over heels in love with this guy. And I kind of knew. I know it's funny, right?
It is funny.
It's hilarious.
No, it's not funny at all, actually.
I think it is. Well, I don't think it's funny, but like I can laugh at it.
You were hurt.
I can laugh at it now.
wasn't.
I can laugh at it now, right? And so I still talk to her. I mean, I talked to her just this morning, right? We're really good friends, really, really good friends. And I tell her, I was like, I knew you're, in hindsight, it seems like you were in love with him the whole time because they were together before.
How long were they together before?
I don't know.
Okay, so were you like, I don't want to say were you like the
The rebound? A 1 year long rebound? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But when
She tells me she let him go. Like apparently
she thought she let him.
apparently he wasn't ready, and so like he's the one that walked away, right? And so a few months later, like I came into the picture, right? And so I didn't really think that he was ever a threat per se. I don't want to say threat, but like I didn't even think that she saw him that way. But towards the end, I think that she kind of missed that and wanted that and realized that I wasn't that. And so that made me pull away, right? Because I felt that she felt that way. So it was kind of like, I'm not it for her. So like, let me just pull away. And then once I started pulling away, she started pulling away. So it was a chain reaction.
I love the way that you explain that. And it makes sense to a lot of relationships out there that it happens. You go on to another relationship, but some way, somehow you're still connected to that other person.
That person.
Yeah. And you have to go through these trial and error, I guess you can call
Yeah.
it. But you could still come back to that person that was always meant to be for you. Could not. We're never going to know because there are relationships that come and go, and it just becomes a very toxic environment, right?
Yeah.
But who are we to judge, right? You were a part of her life for a reason, and
Yeah.
she was a part of yours for the same reason, because now you
Yeah.
get to see, hey, I experienced for you to actually say I was in love, that means something.
Yeah, no, that's huge.
Yeah, because you were in love at one point and you fell out of love and you were able to feel that same love for somebody else. And I'm sure you did things that you didn't always do, and just new things that
Yeah.
changed within you as a person, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, it's tough.
It is.
It's tough, but that is what makes you who you are, Omar Marcos. And Marcos. And I love also the fact that you now think of your daughter.
Oh,
Obviously, you're always going to think of your daughter,
Yeah.
right? But the fact that you put yourself in her shoes, like why would I be somebody that I don't want my daughter to be with,
yeah.
right?
Or even to see me that way at all, right? And that goes my whole world. So, yeah.
And do you think it affected the fact that your mom really didn't have a relationship with somebody else for you to see how to be I'm not going to say you're not a gentleman, but how to be a boyfriend, how to be a husband, how to be this. Do you think that might have affected that in your life?
A little bit, but I don't want to put the blame on that, right?
No, we're
Because
not
at
putting
the
blames,
at the end
but
of the day, like we wield our own fate.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
sure, absolutely played a role, and I'll even take it further than that, in that my dad did it wrong, right? So apparently,
Why do you say that?
well, my mom and dad were never married, right? Because my dad was already married when he
Interesting.
met my mom. And so apparently he had another family that my mom never even knew about. He traveled a lot for work, so he was able to carry out the life for years, right? And once my mom found out about it, then she basically gave him an ultimatum. She's like, look, you have two options and you have a choice. This is your choice solely. But here are your two options. Option number one, you leave Omar with me, 100% custody, and I won't ask you for a dollar. Option number two, we go to court, fight for custody. Your wife will find out about this relationship you've had with me and your son that you have with me, and she'll probably take all your money and I'll take what's left. So it
Yikes.
was, as much as it hurts, he made the easy decision, which is, tuck his tail and run. And I was the victim in that, of course, because like my mom got what she wanted, she got me, and I lost a father figure, which, he wasn't a great person. So I always had that beacon of light in terms of what not to do, right? Here's this figure that's my dad who did it all wrong. And,
But that then takes me to this next question because you're saying, yes, he did it wrong. But you yourself has said you were a womanizer.
yeah, I've been there.
So where does that put
I don't,
us in
yeah, I don't know.
you did things wrong?
Yeah, no, I guess you could say I followed in his footsteps in a sense, right? And I don't really know where that really came from, right? I guess after I got divorced, I got wild. And then before I
How
was,
old were you when you were married, by the way? Were you young?
I was in my 30s.
Oh, no, you were not that. Okay.
I can't remember how old I was. 34, right? I think. Yes, 34.
Okay.
Okay. So in my early 20s, I was kind of wild, but I was in my 20s, right? And so like then I met my ex-wife, and I kind of knew early on when we first started dating that she was going to be somebody I could be with a long time, if not the one, which she ended up being, the one I married. So I knew that early on, right? And so I went from being wild in my 20s and then wanting to finally find somebody to settle down with and be with. And the relationship I was in before my wife was kind of toxic and crazy, right? So like she came into my world and it was a breath of fresh air. Like it was something completely different that I'd never been with before. And it worked at the beginning, right? And then after the divorce, I didn't know how to feel. So I just went nuts, right? And so I started dating, and then COVID happened. And so like I think that's where it really stemmed from, is because I was in a relationship early in 2020 for a couple of months, right? And that was like the first relationship I was in after I was divorced, because I got divorced in 2019. And then COVID happened and like everything was shut down. So it was just a bunch of hookups and casual, relationships. It was nothing significant or with emotion. And like it was just easy, I guess is the
So
word.
have you ever been alone?
Yeah.
Like alone without a partner or a hookup or anything? What is the longest you've been alone
I mean,
for?
I've gone months without without a relationship or hookup or
Or a
something.
hookup?
Yeah. It's ironic because I do really well being alone per se. Like I can go home and just do nothing, right? And I see all my friends and their stories and social media and stuff, and they're like out at CL or whatever, right? All the new cool places, and they're like having fun. Or there's a crawfish boil later that I invited you to it. But like I can shut all that down and be like, I'm just gonna go home and do nothing, right? Or work on something at home, and I'm good with being in my own company. But when you're in that situation, when you're home alone, right? And I have 50% custody of my daughter. So there's times that I don't have her, right? There you go, getting in your own head. You're like,
Okay.
do I want to be here sitting on the couch by myself, or do I wish that somebody was sitting here watching this show with me, right? Or if I go eat at a restaurant that's like, a new hot spot or some weird obscure food that somebody that probably doesn't even like, do I wish that somebody was with me? Sure, right? So I guess that is what inches me towards wanting to have companionship, so to say. And
But do you feel like you're just trying to fill that void?
sure, aren't we all?
Are we?
Are you
I was content by myself for a very long time.
for a very long time, right?
But I can relate to what you said, that the times that you were alone, do you wish you were watching a movie with somebody else? Of course, yes.
Yeah.
But have you really felt, because I felt the loneliness in my life, right?
Yeah.
Have you felt it to know,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be okay by myself? Do I want somebody? Yes, but I'm not going to want just anybody. I'm going to want that one person that I want to be with, and I'm going to give it my 110%, but get it back 110%.
That's kind of where feel like I'm at now. I think that I'm there, but of course, you never know until you actually try, right? And so, do I want to find that person? Of course I do, right? It's I always feel like if it's meant to be, like all the stars will align and it's like perfect and
Absolutely, I
flawless. And
agree
it's
with
like
that 100%.
it doesn't hurt. And that's something that my ex tells me. Not my ex-wife, but the ex I was talking about. She's like, it just needs to be easy, right? Because like I've gone on a few dates and I'm like, she's like, how did it go? And I'll tell her, and she's like, yeah, she's not the one. And I'm like, okay, how do you know? She's like, because I can tell in your tone, like what you're telling me about her, like you're kind of already finding like things that are wrong, self-sabotage, just like you alluded to earlier. And I don't know if that's because I feel like it should just come easy, which I felt that way before a lot. And then when I have felt that way a few times, where it's like, oh my God, this is an incredible connection I've had with somebody, it didn't work out. And even though I felt like it was just amazing, like they didn't feel the same way, right? I mean, I guess you could say I probably haven't been alone for a substantial period of time, right? But, you know,
I'm just saying, just to find yourself, who you are, who you want
I feel
to
like,
be, so that you can, so yes, so that the stars can align and the universe brings that person that's you're just compatible with. Because no, it's not, nothing in life is going to be easy. But when you come to that point to you knowing who you are, because again, you've said it yourself that you're constantly changing, your goals are changing. So probably your what you like is changing. Maybe what the type of female that you like yesterday is not the one that you're going to like tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's because you're just constantly evolving. So maybe that's part of the struggle that you're facing. Like how do you see yourself that you're attracting that person that comes into your life? Kind of sort of thing.
I mean, from the people that I've been with, I would say that it's my mind, really. Like, people are attracted to my mind and my creativity. Like, even when I was doing Runway Houston, and this is true. Like, you can ask friends that have seen this, witnessed this. It's just fake, desire that people have for wanting to be affiliated with the power or the status or the production. I mean, I literally had girls that would come to me like, what are you doing later? Like on Runway Houston night. I'm like, tomorrow, you won't care anything about me. Yesterday, you didn't care anything about me. But tonight, I'm like the whole, like, I'm the object of your desire or whatever, right? And so I had a constant influx of people being fake, like
To you.
to me, to wanting to affiliate with.
Because of who they think you are, who you are.
Exactly. And so that gets in your head too. And again, no excuses, but that gets in your head and you're like, well, if people want to treat me that way, then I guess it's okay if I treat them that way because they're not going to care, right? And so a lot of that stems from that. And again, when you take yourself out of that situation and you look at it, you're like, dude, I want more than that. I don't want just to hook up this chick, right? I don't want it just to be like, oh, she likes me only because I'm the creative director of Runway Houston or whatever. No, I want something that is real, that, hey, let's go watch a movie. Just chill and watch a movie, not say a word to each other for hours and just enjoying each other's company, right? or go eat and be like, oh my God, this is the best meal ever. Just all those things, right? But to feel that numbness, that loneliness, I guess I enjoyed in the past, those connections with those people, even if it was fake, right? So yes, I 100% want something that's real. I do think that I still need to have a little more self-discovery, which is what I plan to do this entire year anyway. Funnily enough, I made a New Year's resolution to not date this year at all, and I've already failed. So
Okay. Well, there you go.
I already failed.
2024 goals. No, but maybe you'll find the one 2023.
But then again, what is a year, right?
What is a year?
What? Why does it have to be?
Why do you have to time it? Like, why do you have to put a date to it?
Exactly.
Just
right?
let it be.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Let it be, let it flow, and it'll happen.
Okay, let me ask you this, right? So have you ever thought like, okay, I'm not going to date. I'm not going to want to be with somebody. I'm content with the way my life is. And then you meet somebody and you're like, I don't want to pass this up, right?
Yes,
just
absolutely.
because I said I don't want to date somebody.
Absolutely.
Right? You've
Of
been in that
course. Yeah,
situation.
I am in the situation. That's how I
That happened to me.
ended in a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, do I let my stupid goals that have to, consist of January 1st to December 31st of not wanting to date, and then somebody amazing comes into your life, somebody you think is amazing comes into your life, do you take that chance? So I did. And so, of course, my New Year's resolution was effectively dissolved and gone in January. I didn't even make it a month. So
how did it go?
it didn't.
It didn't? Okay.
No. I mean,
And that's okay.
and again, it's one of those situations where like I was hanging out with her and it was just amazing. It was just like 4 hours, 5 hours almost of just talking and hanging out. And unexpectedly, when you go on a first date or whatever, you don't know how it's going to go. You've been on some where it's like, this is awkward.
You find every single thing, like you're just waiting for that one red flag to say, you know what, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I want out, right? Well, that didn't happen the first time. Like we were just literally talking for hours and hours.
And it felt good.
And it felt amazing, right? There was a little age gap there, but yeah.
Is this where one of the questions also was where you answered you needed to change the stigma you created of yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you or anybody were to go out in Houston and be like, yo, tell me about Omar, you're going to hear he's amazing. He's great. He's a wholesome guy, cares about a lot of people, does good things. And on the flip side, you'll hear he's an asshole. He's, doesn't care about you. He's a womanizer, all the bad things and everything in between, right? And so when you've done something enough, that becomes their perception of you, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a group of people in Houston that see me as this way over here, where like I'm that jerk, that person that doesn't care, that only cares about hooking up with girls and dating and womanizer, all the bad things. And then there's a circle of people that know me in a different way, right?
Not in a relationship level, in a business level, maybe.
They're only going to see me this way because that's how they see me, right? And so these people are going to see me this way because that's how they see me. And so how do you extract these people to finally see me this way, right? And you hope that these people...
Well, how do you?
That's the challenge, right? And these people you hope never see this side, right? And so, again, I've created a stigma, positive and negative, that exists out there. And it's hard to shake that, right? So that's a huge challenge.
It's a huge challenge, but you know what? I feel like the people that do know the good Omar
Yeah.
and are with the good Omar is the people that need to be with the good Omar.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Right. Well, Omar, speaking of good people and good things in your life, I know that you are into this new project, which is a new podcast called
The Dumb
Tell
Show.
me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I've always had this idea in my head to like create an outlet, right, of just people. So like I used to have a show called Who Do You Know? A long, long time ago. And Who was spelled H-O-U, like Houston, like Who Do You Know?
Oh, okay.
And so I interviewed some people in Houston, and it was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 episodes, and it was really cool. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the right platform. It wasn't really what I wanted, but it gave me, I dipped my toes into pool, so to say. Got a little flavor of wanted to do this. And so after everything that happened at the end of last year with my whole self-revelation and wanting to change up the way I was living my life, I was like, dude, actually, let me go back a little bit further. Over the summer, I went to Comic Palooza, right? My best friend Claudia, shout out to Claudia.
Like your sister.
She's like my sister. I love this woman, right?
Yes.
Not in a romantic way. She's like literally like my sister I never had, best friend. And her kids are basically like my nephews, right? She's got
You're the Theo.
I'm Theo. I'm uncle. They don't call me that, but like, I was with Kellen, who's the younger one, and some of his friends, and we went to Comic Palooza. Again, these are like my nephews. So his friends have kind of become my nephews by extension, right? Like they're the homies, I guess. And we were outside sitting down, and one of them was like, "Hey, do you know who Andrew Tate is?" And I was like, "I don't know who this guy is." Andrew Tate is like, "Who is it?" It's like, "Oh, you got to check some of his stuff out." So, these kids these days, they're all into TikTok. So they have the whole world at their fingertips. They have access to everything. So this kid is showing me these snippets of videos of Andrew Tate. And if you don't know who Andrew Tate is, please don't go Google him.
I don't know when. Okay,
Please
then I
don't.
won't.
He's a terrible, terrible human being.
Let's be nice.
No.
In this podcast.
Okay, you can Google him.
I'm not going to.
He's a terrible human being.
Okay. I believe you.
He has this talk show. I don't know what it is, but he has snippets of it on TikTok, and he went viral, like huge, multi-millionaire, media empire, very wealthy, very well known, one of the most viewed TikTok influencers there is out there. And all he does is talk trash about women and treats them like dogs.
Oh, wow.
And is like, I don't need to have a relationship. I can just hook up with them and take what I want out of their situation. I don't want to be with somebody who's in their 30s. I want to be somebody who's in their 20s because I can mold them to the way that I want them. I mean, a terrible human being. He really is.
Wow. Yeah, definitely not Googling.
And I'm sitting here, and this kid who's in high school is like borderline idolizing this guy because he's got these hot takes that are like, oh, I'm a multimillionaire. I'm driving this Lambo or a Rolls Royce or whatever, and I'm living the life, and everybody's watching my podcasts or my videos, and it's making me rich. And I treat women like dog crap. And this guy, Andrew Tate's effectively molding this kid's mind, letting him know that it's okay to treat women that way, right? And I didn't think
So what did you do?
in that moment. I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, this guy's disgusting, right? So that was it. 5 minutes, boom. But then like the whole thing in September with the ex-girlfriend and like wanting to change my life up and thinking about my daughter, all these things started culminating. I'm like, dude, there's so many men out there that are doing really stupid things, treating women the wrong way. I'm an expert because I do that. I did that, right?
My
I
props
wanted-
to you for acknowledging.
I
and
wanted to get
accepting.
it out there. I wanted to get it out there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get back in the podcast game. I'm going to create this podcast. It's called The Dumb Show, like dumb. DUMB is an acronym, stands for dense and unsatisfactory male behavior.
Love it.
So it's going to be an outlet for women and men to come on there and speak their grievances about male behavior, solely male behavior. I've never been a woman a day in my life. I've never walked an inch in those heels. Never will, right? I'm a man. You're a woman. I don't know what it's like to live in your world, right? And so I've seen enough.
But you don't know what it's like to live in my world too.
That's what I'm
We should
saying.
have one for girls too.
That's why I want.
That's great.
I want you
love it.
to come
Yeah.
out there, and then this is coming from a perspective of a straight male. This isn't a woman bashing men, which is plenty of women out there that do that. This isn't a different stand. This is a straight male that acknowledges the error of many men's ways and wants to change that narrative. I'm tired of seeing, and this is good for women. Like, this is not me taking a knock at women, but there's a reason why women are like all independent. Like, I don't need a man, all this and that, girls' night out. We don't need all that. And then we created that, in a sense, right? We have failed collectively as men. And I promise you one day, if my daughter dates a man that's a scumbag, and if he hurts her, I'm going to go to jail that day. 'Cause I'm going to have to break his ribs or something. But no, this is my outlet to let people know that I acknowledge my mistakes. And I know I'm not the only man that's doing that. And I just want to bring on experts and behavioral analysis, therapists to kind of speak on some of the important points of why men do the things they do and bring on female, guests, male guests, couples.
This is amazing. I can't wait. When does it start? I
This
can't
week.
wait to. Oh my
Actually,
God.
so I'm filming the first episode this week. And then I have my guests lined up, and I just want to have different guests. I want to have, fitness influencers, social media influencers, people in the medical field, lawyers. I'm going to have an Omar ex-girlfriend episode where a couple of my exes will be as guests, and I'm going to let them just roast me to death and be like, tell me what it was like dating me. And I'm just going to be like, no holds barred. Like, tell me all the terrible things. I don't want to hear the good things. And after each episode, we're going to grade the behavior like a report card in school, like a conduct report. E for excellent, S for satisfactory, P for poor, a U for unsatisfactory, which is the U in dumb. And so, yeah, I start this week. So we'll see how it goes.
It's going to go great. It's a great thing that you have going here. And you know what? It's amazing for you to, like I said, acknowledge your mistakes. And it is true when people just become this, I'm independent and this and that. It really shouldn't be like that. I feel like support each other and both grow together and, that idea. But it has been society that has put a female, like that empowerment that says, no, you have to be this way because then they're going to treat you like shit. No, don't let somebody treat you like shit.
Exactly. I don't want anybody to think that I'm against, the girls' nights outs and, I'm independent and can do my own thing and pay my own bills. Good. That's amazing. I'm glad. My mom did that.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mother, worked 2-3 jobs and made it happen. And I didn't grow up in the ghetto, So if there's anybody that's a man that can respect a strong woman, I was raised by one, right? And I'm raising one now. So I'm all about that. Just don't have so much hate for the guys, right? Don't let all the bad guys ruin it for the good guys. And I'm not saying I'm a good guy. I've done some bad things, right? But we have failed as men.
You know what? I'm not going to let you fail on your own. I think we as women have failed as well.
I can't
agree
or disagree with that.
No, we have.
You said it, not me.
I did. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, girls. But we have also failed because, again, we become into this sense of, I don't need you in my life. Yeah. But it's really more about, I really don't need you, but I want you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But again,
I can't wait for you to come on the Dumb Show.
We'll save it for later, the conversation where you get to interview me.
To be continued on the Dumb Show.
To be continued.
Follow the Dumb Show podcast on Instagram. And then all the information will be on there. There's not much on there right now, but all the information outlet will be on there.
There you go. I honestly can't wait to see it. Omar, I want to talk about this and I hope you don't mind, but you had a procedure done. Is that something we can discuss, your reasons why you had it?
Yeah. So I had dermabrasion done, and
because it's an extreme.
Yeah, no, it was a huge change. So as attractive as I look now, honestly, I look like a caveman going into last year, right? And so I guess I'll backtrack to when I was a teenager. I never really had acne growing up. I had a zit here, a zit there, but nothing extraneous. And so then a lot of people don't know this about me, but I joined the military right after high school. I was in the Navy.
I had no idea.
And right in boot camp, I broke out like crazy. I don't know what it was. It was food or the situation or I don't know what it was, right? But I broke out a lot. And so I had a lot of acne, a lot of zits, and they didn't know any better. So I just popped all my zits. And it sounds really gross, but it created a lot of scarring on my skin. And so I've had those since I've been a teenager. And as you get older, it gets less attractive. Like they're not so bad when you're younger because your skin is younger and it's, smoother. But as you get older, it looks really, really bad. And so I just wanted to change that. And so I went to Mejia Plastic Surgery. Shout out to my doctor, Fee Win. He's amazing. And kind of had a consultation. And what can we do about this, right? And so the way he explained it is like scarring of any kind, whether it's acne or like if you get cut or whatever it is jaggedness in the skin. And what you're actually seeing is the shadows that it creates. The indentation is shadowing. So like if you have big pores, it has some effect. People look like you have spots on your face. It's just big pores, right? So what they do is they smooth out the edges to make it so that there's less shadow. So like when light hits it, it doesn't create this dark effect, like circles, indentations in it. And so I've had one session done. It's called dermabrasion. not microdermabrasion, which can be confusing, which is just like microneedling that people can go in all the time, every 6-8 weeks and get it. This is like full on surgery. Like I went under, and
Anesthesia and everything.
Dr. Wynn, went with a machine and smoothed out my face. And, your face is bandaged up for a whole day. You have to, you take it off the next day, and you have to avoid sunlight for 2 weeks. It's a whole thing. And it still progressively gets better for a whole year because, you shed skin for a year, right? Before you cycle through again, right? And so, it's not as smooth as it was before I had acne scars, but it's significant, 70% better, right? If you were to look at a picture before and after now, it's like, wow, it's a completely different person. So it worked wonders. And people were like, why did you change yourself? Some people were like all about it and were like, this is really cool that you did this. And some people were, you shouldn't have done it. You didn't have to do it. I think you were fine before. And Livy, who runs Mejia Plastic Surgery and is Dr. Wynn's wife, said it to me in this way, and it really resonated with me and made me feel good about the decision. She's like, you're not changing yourself. You're literally going back to the way you were before you created the scars. Like, this is what you would look like anyway. So I made it a metaphor for my life, of course, because I overthink things. I was like, this is me going back to the way I was before I hurt myself.
Wow.
Right? Because I would always get in my head. And I think that kind of remotely correlates with the way I treated women, because I always felt like I was not the most attractive guy in the room. So I would try to outperform the most attractive guy in the room. It's like, if that guy who looks like Brad Pitt or Jake Gyllenhaal or, whoever the heartthrob is can get that girl, so can I. So it like pushed me and drove me to try to date more or hook up with more chicks or whatever, because I felt like I had a handicap. Right? So I think it helps in that aspect. Again, it's not the reason, not putting excuse on anything solely, but it definitely was something that was up in my head. It was like, I'm not the cutest guy here, so I'm still going to try to pull, a smoke show.
So with that, it made you feel good that attractive women accepted you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, then and now.
Like
every time I dated a girl,
it
and
was like a golden star for you.
lots of golden stars. But yeah, no, I mean, like, honestly.
But did that make you feel your appearance? So do you feel insecure, or you felt insecure at one point in your life?
Oh my God, have you ever met me?
I have.
I'm King Kong, right? And I feel like the airplanes can't shoot me down, right? Before the surgery. So like now I feel even more heightened, but it's more controlled, right?
Okay.
And so it was never a matter of self-esteem, because I felt like I could, if you look at the
Conquer
women
the
that I've
world.
dated,
Very
beautiful women.
beautiful women.
Beautiful women, right? No business being with a caveman looking guy like me, but
Well,
whatever.
don't say that.
Sexy caveman. No, I don't know. I guess it's my beautiful mind, right?
The way you treat women.
The way I treat women. But no, having a prettier face, aesthetically, right? What is prettiness? Definitely has helped a little bit. And I can tell that when I talk to people that I don't know, that didn't know me before, the response is significantly different than it was before the surgery. Prior to, people that knew me had no problem like going on a date with me or hanging out with me, whatever. But people that didn't know me, it was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, no thanks, not interested, whatever, right? Because aesthetically, I wasn't the best looking guy, right? And I'm not saying I'm night and day different, but it's significantly better now. And now when I talk to people that I don't know, that are strangers or that I meet at the gym or whatever, the reception is significantly better, much, much better. So I've definitely noticed that.
Well, I'm happy for you that you feel good about yourself. Not that you did not
Yeah, no, I
feel
get
good
what you're
about
saying.
yourself
Yeah.
before. But again, when somebody wants to do something within whether it's appearance or whatever, it's a choice that we make.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody has the right to tell you you shouldn't do it. If we want to do it, it's because we want to do it. Doesn't matter the reasons why. It's something that you just want to do it, and you're going to do it. Who cares? Let me live my life. So
Exactly. And I think that also helped as well open some doors for me in terms of insight, because I did this procedure, which could be considered a beautification procedure. And I never would have thought in a million years that I would have gotten cosmetic surgery, which this essentially is. And my reasoning, I felt, was adequate. But again, I can't look at somebody and judge them for doing whatever they want to do to themselves, male or female, and be like, haha, you're just trying to look better or whatever, right? You don't know the reasoning. You don't know what happened. You don't know what their history is. And so now it's completely changed my perspective on something like that. And when I see people doing that, I'm like, good for you. If it makes you feel better, it made me feel.
You got 100% my support. That's it.
I'm here for that, right? And before I wouldn't say that I wasn't there for it, but it's like maybe a little bit of judgment, right? Not anymore.
Or it changes when you actually have to go through that because you understand from a different perspective now, from your own perspective. That
I want to get some lip filler now. No, I'm just kidding.
To each
I'm just
their
kidding.
own.
Never.
To each their own.
Never.
But Omar, before we leave, what would you leave this podcast with to our followers?
What do you mean?
What would you tell them? What one piece of advice that you would give somebody, male or female, whoever? Because we're not here saying I'm pro females, I'm pro males. Just a word of advice.
I guess I would say, and I live my life by this. And so if anybody ever invites me into their house, I always leave this little bit of information on the refrigerator. Like I'll find a piece of paper and I'll write it down and I'll put a magnet and leave it on the refrigerator because I feel like it's the best advice I have ever been given. I wouldn't say been given, but like it's how I live my life. And it's these two things. It's like everything happens the way it's supposed to. If it's happening, it's meant to happen that way. The good and the bad and everything in between, right? If you can accept that and know that when you're in bad times, like it's happening because it's supposed to be happening that way. And on the flip side, the continuation of that is it's happening for a reason. We may find out what the reason is right away, or we may never know what the reason is, or we may find out years later, whenever, when it's inopportune. But if you can understand that everything happens the way it's supposed to and for a reason, you can't challenge that. Like you just have to know and accept that that's the way your life is unfolding, right? And people try to challenge things and try to fight it. No, that bad thing happened to you.
Let it be.
And it had to happen that way because it's where you are now. If you're not alive, then that might be a bad thing. But if you're still alive and you're still going and you still have a way to control your narrative and maneuver through life, then that bad thing or good thing led you to this point and you still have control. You still have control. So that's the advice I probably would give anybody. I can't say I'm a bestower of advice, but that's a good way to live life, I think.
You absolutely nailed it. And I thank you for being in our No Pasa Nada people podcast because that's what it is. No Pasa Nada. For all of you watching, embrace the journey, embrace your destiny. Let universe do what it needs to do. You believe in a God, believe in a God. They are watching over you and they know what's for you. So don't fight it. Don't force it. For sure, don't force it. Just let it be. I'll see you on the next No Pasa Nada, people. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow all of our social medias for the next segment of No Pasa Nada, people in Houston, Texas.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.